let me summarize the basic case for supporting this bill. The need for the RCCA is great. I'm here because the district's current criminal code has not undergone a comprehensive revision since its creation by Congress in 1901. It still uses a 19th century structure that relies heavily on past court opinions to articulate what the elements of crimes are and what the defenses to crimes are. Per this 19th century model, offenses typically have few or no penalty gradations to distinguish more and less serious conduct. One or two high statutory maximums are authorized for all forms of an offense, typically, with maximums that usually far exceed what judges today apply. More recently, mandatory minimum penalties were added, even though research now shows they do not deter crime effectively. The right to a jury in misdemeanor cases was limited in the 90s because of concerns about court resources, even though about 40 states managed to provide access to juries for any charge carrying incarceration time. In sum, the district's current criminal code fails to meet the basic legislative function of fully and specifically articulating what the laws are, and is out of sync with current public norms and best practices. This failure requires prosecutors and judges to decide which of many overlapping charges to bring, what elements establish criminal liability, and which of the wide-ranging penalties are merited. Even with the best of intention, such vast discretion is subject to errors, arbitrariness, and bias. This failure undermines the legitimacy of the criminal law and erodes public trust and confidence in the criminal justice system. Realizing the need to go beyond what piecemeal legislative efforts accomplished in the past, the district has invested, as you said, considerable time and resources to develop a plan for comprehensive reform of the criminal code. The council created the CCRC 5 years ago and directed it to provide recommendations that improve the clarity, consistency, completeness, organization, and proportionality of criminal statutes. The CCRC was directed to examine model codes, best practices in other jurisdictions. The agency statute also designated an advisory group that held years of monthly meetings with staff, gave continuous feedback on drafts, and in the end voted unanimously to approve submission of the CCRC recommendations to the mayor and the council. It has been a multi-year, transparent, research-driven process to develop the RCCA now before you. The proposed legislation would comprehensively modernize not only individual criminal offenses, but the entire design of the code. It adopts the basic structural features of the American Law Institute's Model Penal Code, or MPC, the standard for contemporary criminal codes that has been adopted by most states and tested and validated for decades. For the first time in the district, the RCCA specifies all the elements that must be proven for each offense, including the required culpable mental states. For the first time, the RCCA defines common terms, codifies defenses, and implements a uniform system of penalty classes. Offenses and penalty enhancements are reorganized, sometimes combined, sometimes broken out, so the organization is logical and gaps and overlap between offenses is reduced. Individual offenses have been graded to distinguish more and less serious conduct of the same type. Penalties across different offenses now account for how multiple charges and penalties can apply to one real-life event and are updated to reflect some of our recent survey results on how district voters rank the relative seriousness of offenses. The RCCA is not just a broad updating of criminal statutes, it is arguably the district's first criminal code. And by that, I mean, it's the first time that, like other states, the district's various criminal laws have been reviewed and redesigned to function together as a clear, consistent, complete, organized, and proportionate system of law.